Episode 88. This week we cover Angel 1. Angel 1 did not age very well. It did not age well whatsoever. Possibly the worst episode in Season 1. Not saying a lot, there are a lot of horrible ones. This one, I'd say the worst. Maybe the dirt worst of the bunch. And this one, the Enterprise goes to this planet Angel 1 because a freighter hadn't checked in 7 years, so they decided maybe they should investigate since it's been 7 years. The escape pod had been launched. They're like, maybe it's at that closest planet. It'd take us a few hours to get there. It would take them 5 months. Let's see if they know anything. So they go there. Apparently, the Federation hadn't paid a visit to Angel 1 in 63 years. So Captain Picard's like, it's a matriarchal society, so Counselor Troy, you take the lead on this one, and you see if we can get permission to go down there and look. Why the captain gave the counselor, a psychiatrist, a job like that, no one's sure. But Troy does it. She's like, oh, we just forgot to pay you a visit. So here we are. And they're like, well, it's been 63 years. We weren't worried about it. Not needed. You don't have to visit. And she's like, also, we're looking for some missing people from a freighter. And they were like, well, why didn't you say so? Come on down. So Troy, Yar, Riker, and Data go down to the planet. And they're like investigating. And then actually before that, up on the Enterprise, Picard and Worf came across Wesley Crusher and a classmate. They were on a ski trip in the holodeck. They threw a snowball. It hit Picard. How the snowball hit Picard, rather than evaporate once it left the confines of the holodeck, never made clear. But it hit him. His uniform stayed wet, and they're like, there's some sort of odor now. And Worf's like, yeah, it reminds me of my home world. It's a scent from there. So they beam Riker's party down, and they're met by this Mistress Beata. And Mistress Beata's like, well, why did you bring men with you? And they're like, well, sorry if it offends you, but, here they are. And Data's like, well, I'm an android, so I don't count as a man, even though anatomically I am. But I'm not really, because I'm a machine. And they're like, well, in that case, you can have access to what you need. And so they start searching for these missing freighter ship passengers. And while they're conducting their search, Picard's not feeling so well. He's ill. Crusher relieves him of duty, confines him to his quarters. Apparently, Wesley and his buddy pal are sick as well. And this whole virus is going through the ship, hitting everybody. Geordi LaForge gets command of the bridge because Picard didn't have anybody else. So it's in the hands of the pilot, the helmsman, Geordi LaForge. Worf getting a little sickly. He's sneezing. Klingon sneezes. He says it's the only ones he knows. And down on the planet, they're getting the medical report from the Enterprise, and they're like, well, we better find these people and get back. And all while that's going on, there's a skirmish at the neutral zone. The Romulans are going after a space station, and they're expected to be there in time to help. So they found out that the freighter people had platinum. There wasn't any platinum on Angel 1, so they do a site-to-site transport to where the platinum is, and there's the pilot of the freighter. He's like, yeah, I've been expecting you, but I don't want to go anywhere, so I'm not rescued because I don't plan to go. And they're like, but the people of this planet will imprison you or worse. He's like, not worried about it. And they're like, well, we tried. Nothing we can do. So they go back to the administrators of the planet, to Mistress Beata, and she's like, well, I'll just have to kill him, I guess, if I see him. And they're like, well, that's harsh, but nothing we can do there. Beata's like, been making out with Will Riker the whole time. She's not worried about Riker, but she wants to kill the guy that's stranded on the planet. They keep saying he's like a martyr or a rebel. No explanation as to what he had done to incite those feelings. They left it really vague. They finally capture the guy, schedule his execution. By now, Crusher's basically running the Enterprise because LaForge is sick. She refuses to let the away team back on the planet to come up to the ship because she thinks the virus is too out of control. They're like, well, what about the people from the freighter? We'll be condemning them to death. She's like, same thing up here with this virus. So they send Data back because he can't be affected by a virus, being an android. He takes Riker's last orders literally and says, well, I have 47 minutes to work with before I have to leave, before it becomes too late to help at the neutral zone border. Riker's like, good job, Data, for taking my words to the ultra literal max. And in those 47 minutes, Crusher smells something on Picard. She's like, it must be that scent that causes people to breathe deeply, and then the virus forms once they breathe deeply. That's it. And she comes up with the cure for the thing. And then on the planet, they convince Mr. Beta to let everyone from the freighter go and live in harmony. They beam up to the ship, and they get to the neutral zone in time. All in 47 minutes. They should have had Data command the whole thing. It would have been over in like 15 minutes. But that was basically the episode. Some interesting notes in this one. First time Romulans get mentioned in The Next Generation. They weren't seen, of course, but they were mentioned predominantly through the episode. We hadn't heard of them so far this Next Generation series. They'll eventually pop up in physical form in future episodes. Also, it was the first time Geordi LaForge commanded the Enterprise. He'll command it once or twice more in future seasons, but it was his first time this episode. It was also one of the few times Commander Riker was subservient to Troy. Troy was actually leading the away team and in command because it was a matriarchal society. And a lot of the cast and crew hated this episode because it was kind of demeaning, and they were acting like, well, who ever heard of a woman being in charge of anything? That's ridiculous, and that did not age well. Not at all. It was shocking they got away with it in 1987, but apparently they did. And pretty much, that's episode 88.